Alrighty, we are back for Roundtable Ravens, episode number 7. Oh my gosh, can't believe it's number 7 already. That's kind of crazy. Um, yeah. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, Billy, for joining me once again. We have a lot to talk about here, which is the non-hiring of a head coach thus far.
They're still waiting. They're minding their business.
And I think that's kind of what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Obviously in that really long over an hour presser that we spoke about last time with Steve Bisciotti and Eric DaCosta, they were talking all about they need to find longevity, they need to find the next John Harbaugh, and that's not going to be. I don't think you should be rushing to do that. I know there's already several teams that have hired their head coaches. John Harbaugh went to the Giants. Kevin Stefanski went to the Falcons. The Dolphins now have Jeff Hafley, and the Tennessee Titans hired Robert Saleh. So 4 of the 10 teams who need a head coach, which is absurd, already taken care of. But the Ravens are taking their time, and for obvious reasons. Again, regardless of the people that were already hired, there are so many good candidates this time around that I think it's a huge benefit that they are kind of waiting.
Yeah. No, I think it's good to be smart. I've seen people like having a panic about obviously the Steelers have very similar candidates to us. And I think people worried that, but like they're looking for the two of the same guys. And it's like, well, if they take one, we've got the other. And I think that the Ravens are good at taking their time and they're a respectable organization because they do that. They're very measured about things. They don't like take those big jumps very quickly. They think about it. And even though some of their guys that they've interviewed have gone off to other teams, I don't think that that's something that's like weighing on them or like going to sway their choice or like pace of making this choice at all. So I think they'll be just fine.
Definitely. I think again, it's the way to go. And I saw a video and I totally forgot to save it, but basically it was an NFL analyst talking about exactly what you just said about how the Ravens are measured with what they do. And they do this every draft. They wait and
Hmm.
wait and wait, and then they pick their person. They don't go all crazy. They don't make panic moves. They don't move up or whatever for people that they think that they need to have. They wait to see who's there. They basically follow like the best available format, which has worked out very well. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
they're not great talent evaluators and they're just waiting and waiting and getting leftovers by any means. But
Mm-mm.
the way that they draft is the same situation in which they're waiting for their next head coach. They have
Yeah.
they had 16 interviews thus far, 16, which is crazy.
They're taking
As
it seriously. It's got to be taken seriously. When you're following John Harbaugh, like you don't just want any guy walking into the building and taking over. Like it's got to be a serious, long search.
Definitely. And so right now there are 3 favorites currently, which
Yep.
is Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady, Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, and Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. Those are the 3 right now that are being reported as finalists for the job thus far. But
Yep.
from what they talked about, Bisciotti and DaCosta talked about, they were going to whittle that 16 list down to about 8. And then from there, they would get their 5 finalists, which would then be presented to Bisciotti, who would obviously have the final say. But again, there's so many. And the big, elephant in the room here that we get to talk about now for the Ravens aspect of it is the
Hmm.
Buffalo Bills fired Sean McDermott, and he's now available. I would not be the least bit shocked if they're waiting to set something up with him.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a choice. I think it's something obviously they probably weren't necessarily prepared for. I don't even think Bills fans were prepared for it. I don't think many people around the league were prepared for it. There were like murmurings of maybe if he doesn't win this game, then, so I think maybe, they probably do want to have a chat. It's worth it. Like he's now arguably one of the best candidates in the pool. He helped elevate Buffalo to where they were. He was well respected by fans and by players. Players were devastated to hear he was leaving. Fans were
Mhm.
devastated to hear he was leaving. He knows what it takes to win. He has that kind of culture behind him, and I think he's good at setting that. And he stayed in Buffalo for what, 9 years?
Mhm.
So uh, he fits the bill, and I think he's got to be considered.
I couldn't agree more. 98-50 overall record, head coaching record, 8-8 in the playoffs. Obviously, similar to John Harbaugh, he could not get over that hump and get them to
Yeah.
the Super Bowl, which is why he was fired. Same reason John Harbaugh was fired. Same reason Andy Reid was fired by the Eagles. I think it's smart, or I think it's a good change that tenure doesn't matter anymore. Not doesn't matter anymore, but rather it's not a benchmark for keeping a coach around, regardless of like the Steelers, Ravens, and Bills keeping their coaches around for long. They were obviously all winning coaches. Mike Tomlin didn't have a losing season in his entire career there, which is insane. But the
But when that becomes your baseline goal of like, just get to
right,
9, 10
right,
wins,
right,
then it's
right,
fine.
exactly.
But it does sometimes take just going to a different team, shaking it up, like we saw with Andy Reid.
Yep,
It seems Harbaugh's going to do the same with the Giants. Obviously,
yep,
I see Giants fans being so excited to have him in the building, as they should be. He looks different. I've seen videos of John Harbaugh walking around New York, and he looks like a different, he looks younger, he looks
yeah,
happier.
yeah. He's got a
Just
little pep in his step for
he's got
sure.
pep in his eye. He's got the swag. He knows he's got the power in that building. He's
Yeah.
coming in making some decisions. So, I think those teams do get, they do go, or those coaches do go to new teams. They get a second chance, they get a new lease of life, and maybe Sean McDermott has that in him.
I agree. Again, they're talking about longevity. They need longevity. They need a culture builder,
Yep.
and rather a person who understands the Ravens culture. Who better than Sean McDermott, who instilled and installed that Buffalo Bills culture, which turned the franchise around completely. They've been competitive for the last 8 seasons that
Yep.
he's been in the building. They only had one season that was not a playoff season his entire tenure there. So I think it would be. I think it's insane that multiple teams have not already contacted him. Obviously, there's no reports of that just yet, but I'm sure that will
Yeah.
start to come out. I'm sure, the Raiders are still there. There's multiple teams, the Cardinals that have not,
Steelers.
Steelers, exactly. Um,
The only
we-
situation over there is the quarterback situation is who's it going to be. That's not necessarily as attractive as a thing
right.
as the Ravens is, but
Yeah.
still the Steelers, still great organization, still,
Yep. Yep.
as much as it
Uh,
pains me to say it, great organization.
I mean, it is like
Yeah.
when Mike Tomlin stepped down, the Steelers' job jumped up there. When McDermott got fired, that jumped up there. So the top
Yeah.
three still, regardless of the hires that are already made, are the Ravens. Then you got the Bills, in my
And
opinion. Then you got
Steelers.
the Steelers, and especially the top two because of the quarterback situation. Like,
Yeah.
who would not want to come in and coach Lamar Jackson? Who would not want to
Or
come
Josh
in
Allen.
and coach Josh Allen? Exactly. So, but again, regardless of all of that, the Ravens are taking their time as they should.
Mhm.
They are again, like you said, which is a perfect word. They're being measured about it, which they should. I think their current finalists right now are all very deserving of a head coach opportunity, and I think all three have something great to offer. So,
Yeah. My only concern with the Brady hiring or the consideration of him is that I've seen very similar things happen to the Bills offense that has happened to the Ravens offense in previous seasons. I don't know if he's the guy to really necessarily like wean those out. I know he won't be the coordinator anymore, so maybe he'll be better at like seeing things from a little bit of a distance as opposed to being right in it.
mm,
Um, Bills again, great organization, score great points every season. So, he is a good, but like and that's the kind of my concern with McDermott as well, is I have seen very similar um, particularly like Josh Allen getting panicked and throwing all
mm,
these interceptions that he doesn't do necessarily during the regular season. And Lamar has had that issue, not so much in recent seasons, definitely in like his younger years. So that's my only concern, Buffalo candidate wise, that I'm like
mm.
looking at. Also, haven't got to the Super Bowl, and the AFC East really wasn't as competitive as the AFC North is during their tenure there. So I don't know. Those are my only two. And also because of the culture thing, they are not as embedded in the Ravens culture, whereas like Jesse Minter very much is, Anthony Weaver very much is.
Mhm.
So Weaver and Minter are just sneaking above those two for me right now, based on like the people that are at the forefront.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it's very shocking to me that Minter and or Weaver have not yet been hired by anybody, and I would not be shocked if both of them get a head coach opportunity with the team. They're obviously still interviewing again, just like the Ravens. The other five teams that need a head coach are also being measured and taking their time because again the level of candidates is pretty insane. Also, I'm a little kind of shocked still that the Ravens have not reached out to Mike McCarthy to interview him because he's back in the coaching cycle as well. He's actually going to be interviewing with the Steelers, and I think that's going to be a crazy good fit. But there's a lot going on there, and the Ravens are now transitioning into that second step and starting to whittle down their list. That may or may not include Sean McDermott. We'll see. I don't know, but 16 interviews is a lot, and
They're
you
taking
know,
their time.
yeah, as they should. Again, like there's no rush. There's no rush at all. Funny enough, though, so there's a new rule that was established in 2020 where assistant coaches cannot make lateral moves unless they are given opportunity or given explicit permission by their current clubs to do that. So
Blocked some.
yeah, the Ravens did block some. So special teams coordinator Chris Horton, as long as well as his assistant Anthony Levine Sr. and the other senior special teams coach Randy Brown, have all been blocked laterally to move on from the Ravens. That means they cannot take those jobs with any other team. And it appears that they're probably all going to be retained. So I looked up some kind of rankings, and the Ravens special teams was about 13-ish per EPA, per all that stuff that goes into special teams because there's kickoff returns, there's punting, there's so much that goes into special teams.
Hey, when you
Simple,
got an ordinary punter, you don't want to mess around with.
yeah, yeah. Simply put, like the Ravens special teams has been pretty solid, and they're keeping those coaches around. That's the only thing thus far that seems like it's going to be sticking no matter who
Yeah,
comes in as a head coach. Obviously, Anthony, or not Anthony Weaver. Obviously, Tom Munkin is interviewing with head coach opportunities. I believe he's
yeah,
still interviewing with the Browns. And if he does not get a head coach opportunity, there is a strong chance that he's probably going to be joining the staff over there on the Giants with
yeah.
John Harbaugh as the offensive coordinator, which we could have all guessed would happen anyway.
Yeah, I imagine that was going to happen. I think even like rumors of Zach Orr maybe heading over there with him,
Could
maybe
be.
even stealing a few little players off of us
Yep.
along along with that. So that all makes sense. I think it's good of them to keep the special teams coach around. That is becoming such a key element of the game, and I think messing that chemistry up as well as everything else would be a bit difficult. So, good to keep those guys in the building.
Yeah. From what I understand thus far, Zach Orr is interviewed for the DC position with the Dallas Cowboys thus far, but I don't know if he's gotten any other interviews beside that. But who knows? Maybe he might be retained as well by this new head coach, whoever that new head coach will be. I would imagine, though, that this week is probably going to be a lot more ramp up in terms of interviews because we're near the end of January here, going into February after Super Bowl. It's going to be getting right to work with free agency.
Yeah.
And per Eric DaCosta, there's going to be some big name players that they're going to be swinging for, which they
Hmm.
should. They have good cap space, like we talked about previously. They need to do that. They need to bring in those players. Um, so I would imagine that they are not going to be taking that much more time. I would
No.
I would say probably by the end of this week, they're probably going to have those five finalists. I don't know if that's enough time to talk to Sean McDermott or if he's going to skip the first virtual interview and
They'll
go
just
right
come on
into
into Baltimore.
yeah,
Come
go
and
right
have a
into
look.
yeah. I don't know. I don't we don't know what may or may not happen with that. But I would imagine that this week they're gonna at least set up the rest of those in-person interviews, or rather, from those in-person interviews, start to whittle that list down to the five that Steve Bisciotti will be talking to.
Yeah, I think so far Anthony we've won in yesterday. I think Jesse Mint is supposed to go in today and Joe Brady at some point this week.
Mhm.
But like and we both mentioned before that Anthony Weaver and Jesse Minter are candidates over in Pittsburgh. So, there is a little bit of urgency there with those two. I think there also might be a case of obviously some of the people that they've interviewed are still in the playoffs, so there's no scope
Yeah,
for them to kind of come into the building and have a look around. And I think that we'll maybe know where Weaver, Minter, and Brady stand based on the end of this week and the reaction there, whether they want to wait and kind of push it back a little bit further to give those coordinators chance to come into the building and have a look around and meet Lamar and Bisciotti, I think, mentioned he would be there for the final five.
Yeah, definitely. Another little small update, Anthony Campanelli, who the Ravens also interviewed. He's the former linebackers coach for the Miami Dolphins, current defensive coordinator for the Jaguars, is lining up his second interview with the Arizona Cardinals. So, that is probably, it's looking like he's probably a favorite for that job. If that's the case, that's another candidate off the board and another job off the board, meaning that I'm not saying that this is the Ravens will not feel panicked at all, but it's getting down to it's going to start getting down to the nitty gritty is what I'm saying. And so,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have much more time to kind of start getting the wheels turning on finalizing these candidates. But there was already three of the top coordinators right now that are finalists for the job. So,
Yeah. And two make a lot of sense. Like for me, Anthony Weaver, he knows the culture. He's got massive respect from the team. I know when he left the building, fans were quite upset about that. They weren't
mhm,
excited that he was leaving. He's been around, Baltimore's been in different areas like run game, defensive line. He was even assistant head coach at one point.
mhm,
So, he wasn't necessarily around for our most dominant seasons. And he didn't have much to show over in Miami, but Miami is not Baltimore. It's completely different.
mhm,
Um, and I wonder if there's an an inkling in EDC's brain about maybe kind of shifting away from the hardball tree and maybe wanting to have a complete fresh start. But maybe also on the other hand, maybe he doesn't want to do that. Maybe he does want to keep that, what was built before, keep that around. And I think that that's why these two candidates, Minter and Weaver, seem to be kind of heading up because they do have like Jesse Minter was around 2017 to 2020 on the defense side. He's obviously very just would be coming over from Jim Harbaugh, so be one Harbaugh to
mhm,
another. He's young, he's exciting, and that defense this season really did great. I think going into the playoffs, they were like the second rated defense of
mhm.
all of them. So, I think that those two seem like really great candidates, and I would find it really difficult to watch either one of them kind of go to other teams because I think Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver are being considered by so many other people that, I would like to see some kind of push from the Ravens to be like, just hold on, just wait. It's gonna be one of you, just hold on.
Yeah,
But again, there's no reason to panic. There is no reason to panic. There are
no.
so many options out there, but I think it would be about what road do we want to go down.
Mhm,
I like that there are so many defensive candidates in our pool. I think we really need to return to that. I think
mhm.
it's some like it's been so embarrassing the last couple of seasons as a fan to watch, particularly our secondary get run over and cut up like they have been. So I really think that it's important that we have a defensive mind behind our next head coach position.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Simply too because the offense is going to be fine. The offense is always going to be fine because you have Lamar Jackson, you got Derrick Henry, and you
Yeah.
got, obviously there needs to be a lot more help on the tight end side of things and the wide receiver side of things. Big swings, as Eric DeCosta did say, but the offense is going to be fine. And I'm not saying that you want to bring in a coach that's just going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be good. No,
Mm.
but I think you're right. Dominant defense is what the Ravens have been known for decades. 2008, when the Miami Dolphins won the division and went to the playoffs, guess who knocked them the hell out in the first round? The Baltimore Ravens under Ray Lewis.
Quite
And
literally too, I imagine,
yes,
in 2008.
it was a horrible game. They were
Mhm.
destroyed, and I was like, well, there goes that. I
When you
already
got
knew.
Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, what and Terrell Suggs, what do you
Yeah,
expect?
exactly. And they were dominant, like crazy dominant. But that's what the Ravens' identity was for so
Yeah,
long. And I'm not saying you go away from that. I'm not saying that you can't go back to that. You can't, defense matters. Defense, as they say, wins championships. I don't wholeheartedly agree with that statement all the
I
way, especially
do.
now,
I'm
especially now.
very strong believer
Look,
of that.
I will say, okay, look, in the Seahawks defense, it does. It
Yeah.
does. But you need balance no matter what, and
Hmm.
it's not easy to say. I mean, look at the Steelers. Steelers are known for defense too, and look what happened to them. They didn't go far at all. But the point being, I think you're right in getting a defensive mind back would make a lot of sense, especially with the talent there, and also to help mold and change that secondary because it's a struggle right now. It's been a struggle all season. Hopefully they get that mind in there that can kind of like work things around. You're getting players back. Or Darius Washington came back. You
Yep.
still got Kyle Hamilton, who's a freaking all pro. Marlon
Where would we
Humphrey.
be without
Right,
Malfoy?
Marlon Humphrey. I don't know if he's going to be retained or not. We'll see what happens. Maybe he gets traded. Maybe they cut him. I don't know. But the point being is, yeah, you need that. I think getting a strong defensive mind and starting with that is going to be a good way to kind of like re-energize the organization for 2026. Because, like I said, offense is going to be fine. You
Yeah.
have a superstar there that can literally carry the offense on his back. So
And
two
has done, and
people.
even injured, even
Yeah,
this season with that injury, still in games he showed up, he did what he had to do, not necessarily as dominant as he used to be in previous seasons, but coming back healthy. And then you've got Derrick Henry returning, and he only looks like he's getting better like every
yeah,
year. Like there's
yeah,
so much to be excited about that. I think,
100%.
the defense is the one that needs more constructing. So I'm also alongside the head coach and the excitement of that. I'm actually mostly looking forward to seeing who's that defensive mind that's coming behind
Yep.
for Kyle Hamilton to help him out a little bit and
Yeah,
Roquan
yeah,
too. I'll give him the
yeah.
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, you got those foundational players that are there that, I think it was Chris Canty was talking about even with Sean McDermott getting fired, why the Ravens is still the top destination simply because of like the pedigree that they have and their roster. And it's
Yeah,
true. I mean, obviously they have some roster holes, but overall the roster it's still very strong and it's still playoff ready in my opinion.
yeah,
You take those bigger swings, you get that defensive mind in, especially to help Kyle Hamilton, and especially you get whoever defensive backs coach that person brings in is going to be someone strong, we would imagine, and then really really hone in on that part and get things back to where it was before. I think you're right. I think Jesse Minter or Anthony Weaver would be smart for that. I will say in Anthony Weaver's defense, yes, he did not have a whole lot to work with, but the Dolphins lost three starting cornerbacks before the season even began. One came back, then was lost again. So you're down those three players. They bring in Jack Jones. They bring in Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas has a spectacular year, a rebound year. They were ranked very low for obvious reasons. It wasn't the
yeah,
best starting things off, but Anthony Weaver is a leader of men. Anthony
yeah.
Weaver is a strong, strong defensive mind. He is a strong coach. I think he is that kind of culture builder that the Ravens need. And he already understands because he was with the Ravens. So I think, in my opinion, I think him over Jesse Minter, but we'll see.
We'll see. And it's going to be, I don't know. Like I look at the list and I look at the guys that we've interviewed and bar a couple. Luckily, one of them's already gone to the Falcons. I love everyone on the list. I think it's an exciting, um, I mean, just looking at them, a lot of them are defensive minded.
Mhm.
But I really like where we're at and where we're focusing on the top three that we've got coming in at the moment. Though
Yeah,
I
definitely.
will reiterate my concerns about Brady.
Yeah.
But well, who am I to say?
I mean, you're on a pod about the Ravens. You are to say whatever
And
you want.
I've been a good old fan. I've been there. I've been through the stuff. I've been through it with them. So
Yeah,
one thing I'm sad to hear, however, Mike McDaniel getting nabbed by Jim Harbaugh.
yeah,
Not loving that.
that, honestly, I would have loved to see him on the Ravens for the same reason that he went to the
Yeah.
Chargers. The same exact reason, like to his credit, maybe he's not a good head coach.
Hmm.
I'll just say that. But he's always been a great offensive mind, a great
Yep.
coordinator, and it was really shocking that he chose to go coordinator as opposed to he had like four, I believe four or five head coach opportunities there, withdrew himself from the Browns, which I mean, who wouldn't? Sorry, Browns, but and
I mean, the mess is going on over there all the
right,
time. I mean,
right, and I mean the same situation though. They don't have a quarterback in place really.
no.
They have Shadur, but like, is he the
And they've got
guy?
a
Is he?
whole lot of money spent on someone who's not been on the field,
Yeah,
right?
Deshaun Watson, and then he might compete. So they're still kind of in limbo about who the hell is going to be behind center. Regardless of that, I was shocked. But then, when it was announced that he was going to be landing with the Chargers, I was like, God, that makes sense. Like, and at the end of all, script writers are really real. This is what we're talking about. he went from coaching Tua Tagovailoa to the man that everyone says the Dolphins should have drafted in Justin Herbert. What a story! Especially if that offense is as good as it could be. We'll
Yep.
see what happens. I am very curious to see, how he goes about this new offensive change, if you will. But yeah, I mean, for the same reason that now he's coaching or he's going to be leading Justin Herbert, it would have been amazing to see him lead Lamar Jackson.
Where's Greg Roman going? Don't come home, Greg. Don't come home. Actually, do you know what? He was very adamant on the run, and Todd Monken abandoned that. So
Yeah.
maybe we need him to come home. Maybe we need him to come home and revive that run game. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Chiefs are bringing back Eric Bieniemy. So, I mean, he was with them for a minute and then he
Yeah.
left and now he's coming back. Um, is it really Greg Roman's fault that offensive line was that bad? I mean, they lost Joe Alt, they lost, Rashawn Slater, and it was just terrible after that. So, I don't know if that's Greg Roman's fault. I won't say that it is Greg Roman's fault.
No, I just remember he left a bad taste in Baltimore's mouth. Like people were desperate for that man to get out of the building and was so glad when he did. So for the like coming home of it alone, I would feel so bad for him rocking up to Baltimore and being like, this guy again.
Yeah,
But hey,
yeah,
look, he was around for some good seasons. So like can't you can't I don't know. Fans they turn very quickly when you're not doing what they want to do. And I even remember seeing people like when Harbaugh left the building being like, I didn't really mean it. I said fire Harbour. I didn't mean it. Like
yeah.
literally, like bring him home. So I don't know. Where will he go next? Somewhere with a good run game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some. If it were to be Anthony Weaver, there's some coaches on the Dolphins staff that are pretty good. You got Butch Barry, who is one of the best offensive line coaches in the entire league.
And we
So
need that.
yeah, so if he were to jump over and then want to bring Butch Barry over as offensive line coach, if the Dolphins didn't block that or whatever, that's a good opportunity there. If it were Anthony Weaver, Bobby Slowick is also the passing game coordinator, very well respected, could come over as well. I don't know. There's so many like we're talking way ahead of they need to hire that head coach and see where that head coach is going to bring in their assistants from and all that. But as a
But it
usual
will be such
case,
a big thing of EDC and Bashotti's decision is like, who are you bringing in?
right,
Do we
right.
believe in them? Do we think that that's a good fit? So I think
Yeah,
it will maybe come down to that is like, what guys are you bringing along with you?
right.
Um, when you've got such a wealth of candidates, it's like, we need to know actually what does it look like as a complete thing.
Yeah, what are your goals here? Who do you already have in mind? Could we get them? Could we not get them? What are your plans, A, B, and C? Stuff like that. There's a lot of what ifs right now. The main thing is they just got to go and hire that head coach. And again, not that they need to rush, but kind of you
Mhm.
need to start rushing a little bit. I would say the only reason to rush is because a lot of the good candidates are now being hired. That's not to say there's still not a bunch left. There are. There's a ton.
Even in the
But
playoffs, there
yeah,
are,
even yeah,
and
exactly.
we've had our eye on some of them, and what can you really do while they're being great in the playoffs?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
especially
attractive, and sometimes it's shiny, isn't it? To be like,
yeah, especially Clint Kubiak is one of the biggest
yep,
biggest ones there that his is not doing anything because obviously the Seahawks are right now, in my opinion, the Super Bowl favorites. So, it's gonna have to be a bit before he can actually get in to do in-person interviews. But he's one of those candidates that everybody practically wanted to interview or has interviewed at some point.
yeah. Do you want to hold out for him with the hope that you'll get him and witness your other candidates going elsewhere and then maybe not even getting him? It's a risk that, some teams might be willing to take. I don't know if Baltimore really want to do that. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and yeah, that's always part of the panic too, as well as if you see all these people getting hired, kind of left and right, and you're like, oh man, do we need to jump on someone? I feel like I had brought up previous on our other pod, I feel like that's kind of what happened with the Tennessee Titans and Robert Saleh.
Mm.
This is not a shot at Robert Saleh. I think he's a great coach, but it kind of felt like since they had three other interviews get canceled, they were like, all right, Robert's our guy. But I mean, if you're looking at it like a draft board, you're looking at it who are your top candidates. Those
Yeah,
three top are gone. Your fourth being Robert Saleh. You go
and
for
he's in the
Robert Saleh.
building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, this is just I'm spitballing here. That is not how I'm saying it happened or whatever. This is not a shot at Robert Saleh. Again, I think he's a great coach. But at some point, I think you have to go, oh, okay, well, this is a point where we need to start putting our foot on the gas and get somebody in here quickly rather
Yeah,
than,
because at the same time, you're also losing your pool of coordinators.
yep.
When as long as the pool keeps dwindling, not only are you losing head coaching candidates, you're losing the option to kind of tempt guys in with coordinator positions. So like I can understand why teams like the Titans who really do desperately need something going on good for them next season, you do want it. Whereas like the Ravens are a completely different situation, completely different team. I think we're more likely to be one of the last few picking.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I agree with that as well. Like again, they're very measured and they're just gonna kind of like all right, well,
But also
and
decisive, like trading up for Lamar was quite the decision, and they did that. And I mean, I think it would have been, I couldn't imagine Lamar being on any other team than the Ravens, but like
yeah,
they always end up with the people that they're meant to end up with. And I think they also like know their worth. They know that they are the most attractive team, maybe just, you know,
mhm,
this close to the Bills. Um, and maybe the Steelers if you feel that kind of way about it. I think they have a less convincing roster than the Ravens do, but whatever.
mhm.
Um, you know, I don't know.
No, definitely, absolutely, definitely. Yeah, I just they're gonna take their time, and I agree with that. I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna be one of the last few as well, but also I think there's gonna have to be some sort of like wrapping up sooner rather than later in terms of
Mhm.
like, okay, at least start whittling that list down a little
Yeah.
bit, and then also call Sean McDermott if that's going to be the case.
Well, also the Bills' position being open in is kind of a threat in a way.
It
It
is.
is like another competitor in the like at one point you were kind of the most attractive team, and now you've got Lamar Jackson, but you've also got Josh Allen.
Hmm.
And my opinion, the three-time to me MVP is more attractive of an asset to have and to work with. But that is something worth thinking about if you're Bishotti and EDC is like, are we going to let these guys go out the building, maybe walk over to Buffalo and get the job that we want them to have? So
Yeah.
things are ramping up. They're only getting more competitive and it's actually crazy.
Yeah, I know. Nobody, the Steelers job opening already gave them competition, and then the Bills job, that's your biggest competition now, and you're right. Candidates are going to go start interviewing for that over there too. They're behind the curve too, though, because they fired Sean McDermott way late, and
Hmm.
now they've already lost out on potential. They lost out on interviews with Kevin Stefanski and Mike McDaniel and everybody else that's already been hired. So we'll see. We'll be back next week, and hopefully by next week we will have more information, an
Hopefully.
idea about um,
At least
who
Final Five.
Final Five. Yeah, that would be a good start. Um, yeah, but thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Billy, for joining me once again. This has been Roundtable Ravens, episode 7. We will be back probably early next week because I will be going on vacation and I will be gone for a little bit because I need a vacation. But other than that, we will be back. If not next week, the following week, we'll figure that part out. But thank you guys very much.
Thank you.